A document obtained by CBS News shows the State Department initially kept apparent attacks on U.S. diplomats in Cuba secret. Nearly 24 Americans in Havana have suffered mysterious health problems, including brain damage. The symptoms are believed to have come from some sort of sonic attack. Steve Dorsey has been covering the story from Washington. He joins us now. Steve, what more can you tell us about these documents?
Well, this document obtained by CBS News is internal to the State Department's Bureau of Western Hemisphere Affairs. It outlines the attacks, when they began, and how the State Department responded. It was prepared weeks, if not months, before State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert first responded to these attacks, acknowledging them publicly August 9th. Though she said she had some recent updates, she appeared to read word for word from the document. And a source tells CBS News at the time of the State Department's first public response to these attacks, it had already received reports of the number of Americans injured by these attacks in the double digits.
So who exactly was targeted, Steve, in these attacks?
Well, we understand that at least 21 Americans have been attacked in these incidents that began in Havana, affecting the homes of diplomats and even some hotels since late 2016. We don't have the identities of all of them, but we do know at least one top official at the embassy was targeted, the regional security officer. He's essentially the chief of security and law enforcement advisor for the embassy.
And how is Cuba responding to these allegations?
Well, Cuba met with State Department officials here in Washington yesterday. They were angry already about the president's remarks at the United Nations General Assembly yesterday, calling their government corrupt. They responded to that to State Department officials, but also once again denied they had anything to do with these attacks or that they would ever let a third party, perhaps an adversary of the U.S. like Russia, do this on Cuban soil.
And we know President Trump, he's called the Cuban government corrupt and destabilizing in a speech to the United Nations General Assembly Tuesday. Even though his regime has been in power for nearly 70 years, do you think this could threaten the delicate detente between the U.S. and Cuba?
Absolutely. This is something that Cuba experts and intelligence analysts are particularly concerned about, because this is still a new and fragile relationship that began really in 2015 under President Obama. It took a turn for something different under President Trump, who moved to kind of roll back some of those early measures to warm up relations a few months ago between the U.S. and Cuba. But there are a number of issues that the two countries need to work together on, including immigration, drugs, and the environment. And experts I've spoken to say that an open communication, especially on these issues between the two countries, is still essential.
And Secretary Tillerson has actually come out and said that the administration is actually considering shutting down the embassy in Havana. How likely is that, Steve?
Rena, so far we don't have any indication about how likely that is or when that could be coming, but we understand that response that Tillerson made to CBS's John Dickerson on Face the Nation over the weekend came after 5 senators, Republican senators, on the Intelligence Committee called on him to remove all Cuban diplomats from the United States and to close down the U.S. Embassy in Havana. So far, we haven't had any indication on how seriously, at least, the U.S. is considering that.
All right, Steve Dorsey, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rena.